So the Del Sol seal over here is really kind of in two parts. It's kind of hard to tell. It kind of disguises itself a little bit because it doesn't look like it, but it's basically a figure eight. There's a hollow tube right here, and there's a hollow tube up here in the top, which you can kind of see through there. And the only difference is on that top, there's a little lip right here. So whenever the glass comes down, it lays right here, and that little lip goes over the top of the glass. That's how you get your seal. So we're going to start by repairing these couple cracks that are right here in the bottom. And down here in the top, you can see right there, this little split right there. That's going to be the first thing we seal with this sealant. And after we get this all cleaned up and sealed, that'll be the first half. The second half is most of this seal still exists. So as long as I can get that little lip right there still in place and bonded back up, which I don't think will be an issue, then I can get a seal. With what's left, I can take craft foam and probably a layer of this to actually waterproof it to go ahead and kind of cover up what remains. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and clean it. So first things first, we got some tools here to work with. Got a damp paper towel, a dry paper towel, you got Q-tips, we got some isopropyl alcohol, 91%, we got some tweezers because I think there may be some debris in these holes, and we got a piece of, I believe that was 1/4 inch, but it's 3:1 heat shrink. Yeah, so we're going to do with this, we're actually going to slide it down in the tube so that it can't collapse on itself while we're gluing. It's also going to help us if we push a little bit of glue through there. We can run this back and forth to go ahead and smear it around the inside of the damaged area. Lastly, I need to go grab some yellow or some green painter's tape, blue painter's tape, doesn't matter. They both kind of work the same. Totally forgot to do that. So I'll do that towards the tail end whenever I actually get the gluing on this thing. But for now, we're just going to start by trying to clean out as much of this as we can. And some of this is pretty rough. It's probably going to have to go down in these little grooves. Probably going to have to get done by Q-tips largely. But, yeah, we just want to go through here. It's actually still surprisingly soft considering how sun-baked all of the paint is on this thing. Definitely probably hasn't been Shin-Itsu greased in either its lifetime or a very long time. But for starters, we just need to really clean out this area that we've got to bond back to. Alright, so after a week of being sick and reviewing the 2 hours of footage I did, because this is such a slow process and me rambling as I did it, I decided it'd be easier to just kind of explain with some samples. You know, the first thing's like if you got a tear, right, your tonneau, not your tonneau, if you got a tear in your seal, like the easiest way we're going to repair it is going to be with some black super weather and gasket adhesive, right? Gonna need a paintbrush. Gonna need some tape. The painter's tape probably works best because it doesn't adhere too fiercely to your thing. Binder clip, and the reason you need a binder clip is if you've got a tear like this one, where there's a tear that runs along the bottom of this that's sealed. It's not just the hole. So I had this whole flap sitting out. But rubber in automotive stuff is either squished or stretched. There's no neutral rubber anywhere. Like either it's got weight on it or something. So what you really needed to do is this whole strip had moved back probably about 10 millimeters. So I was having to pull it out and clamp it out here to where it normally would close. Come on, garage. So once that's done, then you can go ahead and start doing little sections. And the reason I do little sections on such a long tear is because if you get them misaligned and you let the whole thing set, the whole thing's screwed up. So if you do a little section, you can double check it, double check it, double check it, double check it. And if you do make a mistake, it's not a catastrophic mistake. It's just a minor mistake. All right. Lastly, the kind of secret to my success here has been parchment paper. And we got a tube of 1/4 inch, 3:1 heat shrink, right? Because you can cut that into strips and use that as spacers. So in this scenario, once you start with your cut, you know, you're going to want to move on. And sorry, my teaching aids have come out of order. All right. So you're going to take your adhesive and you want to paint it on the inside. You want to paint it on both sides. You want to let that set for a few seconds. And then once that's set, you're going to push the two together. I usually like to put a bunch extra on the back to give it some rigidity and just a little bit on the front to make sure that that seal stays closed. We're going to peel back this front later. So once we've got this done, like this piece right here, you can see there's just a little bit on the front. It's sealed, like it's not going anywhere now, right? You can still see where the original tear was, but for this purpose, I just did this and pulling as hard as I can, and it's not doing anything. You can see that I went a little heavy on the back for this repair. This stuff is still flexible. I know the shadow over here makes it kind of hard to see that I'm actually flexing it, but it is flexible. It's a little bit stiffer than the original foam. So step one is going to be to go ahead and you're going to paint the inside of the crack. You're going to go a little bit heavy on the back. You can be as sloppy as you want because it's going to be on the inside of the tube or the back side of the tube, the flap or whatever. Nobody will see it. You want just a little bit on the front. All right. Step three, I came in. Come on, garage, work with me. Step three is I went in and I just scraped off all the stuff that was on the surface. You'll notice you'll start to get little balls, especially if you don't let it set for a couple days before doing it. When it's still soft, that stuff will roll right off. You see it's pretty flush. And then the back, just heavily done. The third step is, and this is when these tubes and shims and everything come really into play. I mean, it's nice to use them as shims to make sure when you're at step one that you shim both sides so this stays together, and stays flush, doesn't shift. But after that, you can see the back. It's kind of sloppy. I don't know if you can see that in the light, but it's kind of sloppy. This top piece right here, I literally went back and just ran a bead straight from the tube on there and then put some parchment paper on there. It'll dry underneath the parchment paper, but it won't stick to the parchment paper, so you're given it the opportunity to have a flat surface, right? Or a flatter surface, because if you look at that, that looks a lot cleaner than that. And then you're gonna have like a completed bond. So there's a couple things going on here in the situation with this one, because this is such a pain in the ass and a complicated thing. First off, the seals over here are like a snowman. Right there, I don't know if you can see it before. If you're not looking for it, you'll probably miss it, but there's my first patch job right there on the outside. All right, in here it gets infinitely more complicated. So you can see there's tears all over through here. That looks like a tear, but that's a spider web. That's, when I say spider web, I mean it's just a string of this adhesive, because the stuff's so goopy. But if you look, there is damage literally all through here. And the purpose to seal it up so water doesn't get down inside this tube. You want to keep it in this channel because this channel comes over here and drains into that hole. right? We're just going to drop it down here. We're just going to drop it down this channel until it takes it out of the car. So when I was working in here, like this whole section's patched, and I would only patch up to that ridge at a time, especially when I was covering it, because I wanted to keep that ridge intact. So all of my heat shrink seems to have rolled away or gotten under the car. Give me 1 second. I'll cut a little piece right here so you can see. But because this hole, there's currently stuff in that hole to keep it firm. I would basically stuff a couple pieces of this behind to keep the back so it'd stay aligned. And then on the front, as it was drying, I would literally just tuck a piece of heat shrink in there. Just like that. And that would keep pressure on both sides so the cut would stay aligned while it dried. But went ahead and I finished all of the bottom first, and then went back and started doing the top. Top's a little bit sloppier, but you can't see most of it. So that's basically your process for repairing tears. The hole, that's going to be an experience. So this hole right here, right now, is currently filled with it's just a kind of a placeholder. I'm going to leave it in here, but there's a piece of heat shrink tube in there. Worst case scenario, it gets hot, it rattles around in here. It's okay till I replace this thing. So what I did was I took a piece of adhesive back craft foam and cut myself a little section that's a little bit longer than that. What we're going to try and do is get this in here, and then we're going to peel the back off to kind of go ahead and start to recreate a surface to work from on here. So now that we've got that, what I'm going to do is tear it in the middle if I can, and then I'm going to peel it off on both sides. Probably should have cut it in the middle first, but here we go. The whole idea is that we're just trying to build a surface that keeps this pretty straight, and we're going to take a piece of black craft foam, put it on top afterwards, and we're going to come back and seal the whole thing. Hopefully. I haven't ever seen anybody do this before, so it's kind of an experiment, but theoretically it should work, or at least I think it'll work. But $10 versus the effort of spending like $150 and or having to search one of these things down is kind of a drop in the bucket for the amount of work and effort we'd have to do to replace one of these seals otherwise. And of course, this tears super easy because I had to mangle it a whole lot trying to make it fit the initial couple times when I was cutting down on the size and everything. But I go ahead and just tuck in what we can. Get as much of this paper out as possible. Close this up as much as possible. The reason I'm using brown is so that I can actually see the hole after we're done and see what I need to work with. But we're just going to try and get this to look like it's pretty much straight with the rest. I think one of the things that'll be nice is whenever I put in this piece right here, I'll be able to kind of stretch it a little bit so that this line kind of gets a little bit straighter. So we got our strip of black craft foam. It's not quite the same type of foam, but we're going to be literally covering this entire thing in adhesive, so it's not going to matter. So what I want to do is try and line it up as best I can and figure out very slowly, we're going to try and whittle out that shape of that back corner or get pretty close to it. If there's little gaps, that's fine. And remember, I'm being a little conservative when cutting this. I could definitely cut in a little bit deeper on some of these pieces, but I'd rather be too shallow and not have a huge gap than have to go cut another piece and start over again. Which, I mean, if I do, it's fine, because this piece will kind of serve as a template for how not to screw up the next piece, but, you know, we'll get there. This is the other reason why that adhesive piece in there was so important, is it allows me to kind of stick this down and work from there. So I'm only like peeling back the section that, you know, I need right here. Just a little bit more out here, and I think this will be ready to lay down. Okay, so now that we've got our gap there, we're going to take this and a plastic razor blade, and we're going to try and squeeze as much in as we can between the seal and the roof, just so that we don't get any on the roof and then wind up bonding the roof to the seal. I think I'm going to put a piece of, just to shim this up a little bit. And as we kind of shim this up, we'll be able to see where we're creating waves. That looks like that's straightening this out a little bit, but now I got to take a little bit more out right here. So just go back and grab our scissors. Smaller pair of scissors would probably make this way easier too, but I'm going to work with what we got out here this morning before I go to work. Okay. So does this line look straighter to you guys? I think I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and start with doing this outside edge, which in this case, because it's such a big gap, I'm just going to go straight into it. I'm not going to try and do anything crazy. Normally I would try and paint this stuff in, but and I apologize for all the printer noises in the background right now. That might be a little bit more than I wanted, so I'm going to try and scrape a little bit out, especially up here at the front. And we're going to go ahead and lay some of this down a little bit so it's a little bit more flush. So now it's done. We're just going to try and cover it up with the stuff we brought out. Most important part right here is trying to see, if you see that little line right there, you can see where there's a gap between the two pieces, and we're trying to get rid of as much of that line as possible. So we're just going to kind of massage it up, get rid of that gap. And then we're going to tape this down, let it sit for a couple hours, and we'll come back out and check on it. But the whole idea now is we're just going to put some tape over it because we want to maintain pressure down on this so that when it dries a little bit smoother. If you see the little ripples down here, these aren't important because they're over that edge. They're over that lip that we're trying to not mess with too much. But we do want to try and get this little edge right here as flat as possible all the way down. Hopefully when this is done, we'll prove that my art degree was not completely worthless. And let's let that set for a couple hours. It's been like 3 weeks since I came back to this due to a crazy amount of allergies and a sinus infection. So picking up where we kind of left off, you can see that there's just this little bit of ripple right here. Like it's not straight. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to cut it open, and we're going to vertically place a piece or two of this in there to kind of pad out and push this out a little bit. In the meantime, what we did was to find that ridge where this is uneven. You can just kind of take a blade, and if you scrape it, you'll start to see where that stuff pops up. Later, I'm going to come back with like some 600 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to try and clean up this little edge right here where it looks a little rough. But for now, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and make an incision right along that little white mark that just got made. We're going to pull out the tubing and stuff that was still in there, and probably from here to here, we're going to stick in another little piece that goes across the top to try and push this edge out a little bit so that it looks a little bit straighter compared to the other pieces. Right now, it is really difficult digging into this. I can tell that I am hitting some of the thicker areas where there's more stuff in here. We're just going to go ahead and keep trying to cut it down that little line. So now we got it down that little line. You can see the older bits in there, the other layers of stuff that we'd put in there. I'm going to reach in there and try and pull out, to the best of my ability, we're going to try and pull out this heat shrink tubing that got left in here. Shouldn't be bonded to anything. It's just a really tight fit. Oh, Jesus Christ, this stuff's in there. I forgot how long this piece was. We'd stuck in there. And there's another piece underneath it that I don't even know if it's worth grabbing. But right now you can see where this is starting to lay out a little bit flatter. Like it looks a little bit straighter. So we're just going to go ahead and tap like just a little bitty sliver of stuff in there. I can see where the end of this is. This one will be a lot easier to get out because I can just pull it out straight. There we go. So that's everything out of here that's not craft foam. We're just going to cut like a tiny little sliver here. Probably needs to be, if I had to guess, about this long. We're just going to wedge this in here to kind of fill that up where my tweezers go. So now that edge looks a bit straighter when I get some tape on it. So we're going to go ahead and just fill this up, tape it up like we did the previous pieces, and hopefully this entire section's done now. And I can move on to working on the interior, which I've already pulled part of. It's probably the reason why I'm having such issues with allergies is because, I opened up this car that had been opened, left to the elements for God knows how long. Kind of glop that on there. Get my little spider webs going on. Put the lid back on. And while there's a little bit of a ripple in there, that looks a hell of a lot straighter than it did previously. I'm going to try and work that ripple out so you can see it. I don't know if you can see the tape right here, but you can see a little bit of the fold over. And we're going to try and straighten that out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and try and smooth over this tape so whatever's adhesive's in there dries pretty straight. And already that line's looking a hell of a lot straighter than it did in the past, so I think we're probably in a good place. I'll let this sit overnight. Tomorrow I'll come pull this off, and I'll probably try and sand sand down some of these rough edges. Well, actually, I could probably cut off some of these rough edges. Just slowly, but we'll come back and we'll try and hit this with some 600 grit sandpaper and just the area that we patched. Just to kind of level it out a little bit, make it look a little bit more blended in with the rest of it, and alright, so I went ahead and peeled back the wax tape. Again, apologize, I got crazy allergies going on somewhere in a mask, even though I'm out in the garage. So now that we've got this, we've got a pretty level area, but this looks, and this look not as good as this, but way better than this. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to sand a little bit of that back. Start off, we're going to go ahead and tape off the areas we don't want to damage. This I'll come back and clean up. Right here, this stuff on the edge of the roof, I'll come back and clean up with a plastic razor blade. But for the time being, we're going to sand. We just want to make sure we put just a little bit of protection over these areas we don't want to accidentally hit with sandpaper. My glass already got some scratches in it, but we're still going to try and protect it just to be on the safe side. Doesn't take much. Make sure we tuck the tape where we can, just to keep it off the edges. And this is going to look a little darker because it holds moisture a little bit better than this new stuff, but new stuff seems to be knocking down pretty good. But we're going to continue to sand down up here on the front. I may montage that or just show when we're done, but that's the whole idea of the process. So now we've finished up like the complete repair and a hefty amount of sanding. You can still see that there's like a repair there, but you know, after you put a little bit of grease on there, it largely just kind of disappears. So I think for the most part, you know, we're done, and you know, that kind of repair was kind of a big deal, surprisingly.